It's been a while, like 2 years or something like that. Yeah, it's been a crazy couple of years, but Maggie's still running and she's doing great. For the first video that I'm going to do while I'm back is an overdrive leak that I have. Some people have run across this leak. I've heard of it multiple times at shows or in clubs or forums, and people say that they've replaced the gasket on the plates on the bottom of their overdrive multiple times and it still leaks. And now I have the same problem. So I did my research and I found out that there are O-rings inside the coil unit that have gone bad, and those usually let too much oil by for the gaskets to handle. So I'm going to show you guys how to take it apart, disassemble it, replace those O-rings, and put it back together. So we'll start with being under the car, and you've already got the little blue plate removed. It's got all the labels and everything on it. Once you remove that, you'll be able to see here the coil unit or the solenoid, whatever you want to call it. You make sure you want to disconnect the wire first that leads up to the side of the transmission. Once you have that done, then you should be able to kind of jiggle it loose, maybe use the wire a little bit to pull it out. Just kind of work with it a little bit and it should pop right out. Alright, and now we've got it out here on the table. We'll start pulling it apart. You should be able to just kind of pop the little bottom piece out right there. That's part of the solenoid. There is usually a little ball right behind that. Mine had already fallen out. Make sure you don't lose that if you aren't replacing it. You'll start pulling it apart here. It comes apart fairly easily. It all kind of just snaps together. It's not hard. Okay, and then we got the wire here. It's a little dirty. I might clean that up later. Here's the gaskets we're going to be replacing, the little O-rings. We have the big one, the tiny one, and the, I guess, medium-sized one. You can kind of use a pick or something to pull these out. You'll have to work with them a little bit. It'll take a while. Mine took a little while. They were brittle and everything, but once you get them out, then it's fairly easy to put them on. Got them out, and then make sure you have some oil nearby. Get the O-rings all covered in oil before you put them in. It'll help with when it's all together and then just slipping them onto their groove. Should be able to just pull them over onto their groove on that part, and then you can take the big one and it just presses into place fairly easily. It's not tight at all. And the small one's a little bit tricky. You gotta really work with it for a little bit here. Go, they're all in place. Pretty simple. Now about this wire. I decided I'm going to clean mine up a little bit. I'm going to put a new bullet connector on the end and replace the connector on the transmission as well, because they were getting a little corroded and kind of getting torn apart. I'm just going to clip it here and clean it up, cut back the felt covering a little bit. Oh, and then also don't forget to put this grommet in. This grommet helps seal, and it sits in a little groove on the back plate there. We'll clean up the back plate too. But that's another reason why some people get leaks, is because that grommet has gone bad. Here's the final product. I've cleaned it up a little bit. I used some shrink wrap to help get that grommet on because it's a little tricky. I took the shrink wrap here and I stuck it around the end. It helps it so you can get it oiled up and then it slides around the end without fraying anything. Just use a lighter, get it all shrunk on there as much as you can, and then the grommet should slide in fairly easily with a little bit of oil. And then you can take a razor blade to it and you can cut it off. Just make a little cut down the middle of it, and then you should be able to peel it off. And then you can finish putting your bullet connector on. And here it is. I put a new piece of shrink tube on it, ready for when I connect it to the transmission again, because then it'll protect the bullet connector from getting any more corrosion or getting wet or anything. And make sure you have a new gasket. Clean up the back plate a little bit. Make sure it's nice and smooth and clean. You can use a sander, like fine grit sander, get all the gasket material off, and then you shouldn't need RTV for this. The gasket itself should be able to seal it just fine. Now I'll show you guys how to put this back together here. It's fairly simple, just the opposite of how you took it apart. And then I bought a replacement little ball in here. It acts as kind of a check valve. I'll show you guys where that goes. Just make sure you don't lose it. If you have your old one, don't lose it. It's very small, it can be very easy to lose. So you'll take the top part of the solenoid and you should be able to just drop it into that little hole. You can see it from the other side. There's another hole at the top of it, and then the little piston piece kind of just sits behind it. And then when you put this back together, make sure that the rounded part of where the wire connects goes down and towards the inside of the housing. Then you can put this bottom cap on. That should hold it in place. And don't drop your ball when you put this part in. That should snap in place fairly easily too. And then the final piece. You may have to give it a little bit of a push. Alright, now back underneath the car, make sure you clean up any residue oil on the gasket surface and anywhere else that you don't want oil to touch. You're able to slide your solenoid back into place, and when you do put it back into place, make sure you slide that grommet onto the wire into the little groove on the bottom of the transmission overdrive. If you forget to do that, then it will leak. Just kind of press it into place. It should hold itself there fairly well while you get your cover back on it. And there we go, we got the grommet in place. Putting the plate on now with the gasket. Don't forget the gasket as well. Make sure it sits fairly flat and that it sits against that grommet pretty well. And then when you're done with tightening them all up, you should be good to go. Fill your transmission back up with oil. Don't forget that, that's pretty important. And then usually what I run in mine is 2050 engine oil. That's what everyone usually uses in their overdrives. Works fairly well, and then you should be leak free from then on. Yeah, it's fairly simple. Have any questions, leave them down in the comments below, and thank you guys for watching.